Hello, BookTube. I originally planned on doing a Friday reads for you, but then I saw on Adam's channel, Memento Mori, I saw him do an am reading video with a hashtag am reading, and it seemed cooler and more casual and hipper to do that than to do a boring old Friday reads. And since, like everyone, I only yearn to be as cool as Adam, I thought I would do that instead. So I have an am reading for you, just like you'd see it on his channel. Oh, wait, no, even better. Here you go. I want to show you the books I'll be reading this weekend. Starting with two Shakespeare books. The first one is this, How Shakespeare Put Politics on the Stage. Let's see if we can get this to behave. Oops. Nope. Look at that. This is by Peter Lake, who last year did a book called Bad Queen Bess that I really liked, and I felt sorry. I felt sorry that I never reviewed it. I never talked about it at all, other than just to friends, and that felt wrong. So, not only, I mean, this is a book. There's a long book about Shakespeare's history plays, which I love. So not only would I read it anyway for that, but also I feel it's one of those weird things when you're a reviewer. I feel like I owe the author one. He wrote a really good book, and on a subject I really like, the bad side of Queen Elizabeth I, and I ignored it, and I shouldn't have. So I'll be reading that. And then the other one is this, Stanley Wells, Shakespeare on Stage and Page. Stanley Wells was a schoolmate of Shakespeare's and has been at the Shakespeare Trust in Stratford-on-Avon since 1823. He has no organic components anymore. He is basically a Terminator. And he's also, as crusty as he may be, as unimaginative as he can sometimes be, as cranky as he has always been. Don't let his old age fool you. He was that way when he was 20. He is our foremost living Shakespeare scholar. And this is a collection of occasional pieces in New York Review of Books, various addresses, Shakespeare specialty publications, stuff that it's a godsend to have it all in one book, because I love reading him on Shakespeare. So it'll be those two are coming up, and then there's another one here, Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari. It's called A Brief History of Tomorrow. He did a book called Sapiens that a lot of you may have seen. It actually, for a nonfiction book, registered fairly well on BookTube, and it was really, really good. It was stupid in parts, as I have found even the smartest Homo sapiens will often be when writing about their own species. The key stumbling point being the word species. I wish I could impress upon you all. Humans are an animal species, one of countless hundreds of thousands of animal species that have existed on this planet. Humans can talk about themselves and invent words like species. Humans can meta-conceive, but humans are just a species that can do that. And if you had an hour, I could list for you the things that 100 different animals can do that humans can't do. Now, how fair would you think it if one of those animals made what they could do, the special thing they could do, the yardstick by which all other species are measured? The first thing you would say if you could would be, well, you can't measure me that way. That's what you do best. That's all this is, this speech, this technology, this meta-conception. That's all it is echolocation. That's all it is the neck of a giraffe. It is a species skill. It is not a divine mandate. I wish I could have pressed that on these writers. Harari's really good though, so I'm not gonna beat him up around the head and neck. And I think this is gonna be, since it has you can't really tell, it has a fingerprint on the front with a little chip embedded in it. So I believe this is going to be a meditation on where the human species is going in the future. I don't really know. I don't know anything about it, but unlike the booktubers that I criticize when they come on their channel and they say, here's a book, I got it at the bookstore, I paid $35 for it, I don't know anything about it at all. Unlike them, I didn't pay for this book. And I liked his last book. I'm not just blindly blundering into the latest Barnes & Noble sale. But anyway. And then at some point this weekend will come this thing. This is Emmanuel Loyer's new biography of Claude Levi-Strauss. That's him on the cover. What a cover, huh? could have picked. You can't tell from the cover, but when Levi Strauss was in his 20s, he was as beautiful as young men get, and you could easily put that on the cover. Instead, this is so much better. Don't you want to read that? Just looking at it, that face is seen and thought, everything there is to see and think. I have never read a Levi Strauss biography, and this one is big, even by my standards. So it will take me some time, probably the better part of an entire day, which is why this AM reading list is so small. And then I'll do some fiction to recover from 1,000 pages of French biography. The first one is this, The Ice Beneath Her by Camilla Grebe. It's a mystery set in Stockholm. She's a Swedish author who I guess is very popular. I've never read her in English. I've never read her at all. And I confess, the whole Nordic working police procedural where the cops are really, what's an internationally polite way to put it, dumb, and they just sort of grouse and complain, and then the mystery sort of solves itself. These books have a very long history and tons of devoted fans. I know some murder mystery fans that absolutely love Swedish, Icelandic mysteries. I don't get it. I've never gotten it. If I wanted to read about people complaining about their jobs, I wouldn't block Deb's emails. But I'm going to give it a try. I always want to give things a try. And then the last thing I want to mention, the last of the books that I'll be reading this weekend, is going to come as a surprise to quite a few of you. It certainly is a bit of a surprise to me. And it's this, The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. And you might think, well, haven't you had lots of critical things to say about fairly stereotypical YA stuff that doesn't try? And I have, it's true. But Britt, on her channel, I will leave the link down below. She has a wonderful channel, and she unknowingly did the magic thing with me. She simply asked me to read it. She said, I know it's not your cup of tea, but imagine these characters weren't teenagers. Imagine this wasn't YA. Just give it a try. Essentially, she was calling for me to take it on with an open mind. Now, I don't think it was entirely wise to suggest that I read it imagining that it's not YA, because I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, I haven't read it, but from what I've seen and heard about it on BookTube, I'm pretty sure that Maggie Stiefvater hews fairly closely to some fairly typical YA cliches. And as with any genre, the cliches, the structure, is a large part of the endeavor. If you handed someone Frank Herbert's Dune, which is the greatest science fiction novel of them all, it would be a mistake for you to say to them, just read it as if it weren't science fiction. Because if you do that, a reader who does that is going to run shin first into the demands that genre fiction makes of its readers. Not irrational demands, but still demands. You pick up Dune and you start to read it, and on page 3 you get to a mention of plasteel and laser guns, with no explanation given whatsoever. If you read it as if it isn't science fiction, you're going to get to that and say, what? What's that? I have no idea what that is. And I'm paging all around it, 10 pages back, 10 pages forward, reading experience completely forgotten, and there's no explanation given here at all. How am I supposed to know what's going on if you're not describing what's going on? And science fiction fans take that in their stride. It's part of the atmosphere of the genre of science fiction is to take that sort of thing in your stride. And with fairly stereotypical YA fiction, one of the modern cliches of that genre is to pander to teenagers by having lots of feckless, stupid, lovelorn behavior in places where it should not occur. So you will get a plain Jane character who's also buxom and gorgeous, and she will find herself in a pivot of history, a gigantic evil empire toppling right on the fence of what she does or doesn't do. Her actions that will save or damn millions of people, including her own family and all of her closest friends. And the main thing she's thinking about, of course, in a situation like that is, well, he's so dreamy, but he's so mean to me. Any reader going at that who doesn't read it as YA is going to say, what the hell? Why are you even thinking about whether or not you like the short, stubby blonde boy or the tall, lanky, black-haired boy? Why are you even thinking about that when you have an empire to save or destroy? Why are you even thinking about that? And the reason why has nothing to do with the book. The reason why isn't in the book. It's part of the genre. So if you don't know that, you'll be stopped. Dead. Stop dead. Now, Britt suggested that she asked me, will you read The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater? And that is typically all it takes. So I will. But if it's all right with her, I am going to read it as YA. I want those genre expectations firmly in place while I'm doing it. But what I have learned from my time on BookTube so far, from various sources, is that those cliches do not damn the genre. It can be done really, really well with every single bit of furniture firmly in place. It's a question of the writing. It's a question of the skill of the author, not the sandbox that the author is playing in. That is absolutely fine, and I actually needed to learn that. Now that I know that, I'm certainly not going to hold it against Maggie Stiefvater, so I will read The Raven Boys, and we will see one way or another. And my first thought, when Britt said, well, I would like you to read it, my first thought was the dozens and dozens of people in my life who have done that in the course of my life, who have cut through argument, or haven't tried it, who have cut through Wearing Me Down or Perseverance or anything like that, and simply taken the magic route of saying, will you read this? Just, I want you to read this. My answer is almost always yes. I'm more pressed for time reading-wise now, but even so, my answer is always yes, but with one huge caveat. I'm sure Britt knows it, because I get the strong impression she's a lot smarter than I am. And that caveat is, if I don't like it, I'm not going to hide that fact. I've never hidden the fact that I dislike a book in my life, and I never will. So it might be a little painful. The results might be a little painful. If they're really painful, if I read this book and all I encounter is a corpse-strewn train wreck, then I will probably just vent to her in private. Although you never know. But anyway, that's my AM reading, dudes. I'm going to go out and get a kale smoothie now, if it's all right with you.